We do not own the rights to anything or any music that's heard during the duration of this podcast. Also, a lot of these shows will have explicit content. So if you are not a fan of any cursing or profanity, you may want to walk away, but that does not mean that every show will consist of such. I know y'all tired of it, but we got a new season of The Past. Welcome to season 8, the Mamba Year. Podcast available on all platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all of your podcast platforms. Here you'll get a dose of content related to tech, the productivity world, and most importantly, how to be a better you. The theme for this year, personally, is receiving grace. And we definitely want to do better with receiving it and being open to being a better us from who we were a year ago. So this is season 8 of The Past, and I hope you all enjoy. What is up? What is going on? Episode 397 of The Past is here. I'm your host, BT, and boy, do we have an episode for you today. I will go ahead and be clear. As you hear ruffling and rumbling, we back with the mic. You probably may or may not have noticed a difference in audio quality, because even as I went back to edit, I didn't hear much of a difference. So hopefully you all felt the same. If there were any issues, someone in my circle who listens to the pod would have told me by now. So those who have had the opportunity to hear that show, thank you. I think I was a little bit more critical about it than expected, but that comes with the territory when you're accustomed to, creating content and wanting to be sure that your content is done in its proper form. So that was one of those examples of like, all right, I want to make sure this is done correctly. There's no fumbling, no fiddling, no anything out of character, out of pocket, whatever the case may be. So I just want to be sure of that as we progress through today's show, which for the first time in probably quite some time, I took notes. I have a couple of articles. I have actually like one article, and I'll kind of dive into that a little bit, as well as kind of some traditional productivity stuff. And as you can read by the title, I have a bit of a planning update to say without updating, and it'll kind of all tie together. So we're going to go ahead and get this show rocking. So I'm going to talk about this now only because it is a conversation that comes about that a lot of people don't think about. And it's nothing wrong with, if you do this currently, I'm not pointing the finger at you like you're doing it wrong. I'm just telling you, be sure to be aware in doing this. And what that is your tasks list when it comes to doing different tasks in your day to day, not having them be so bombarding or so overlapping that you're trying to do it all without doing anything. And what I mean by that is, if you have a work to-do list, have your work to-do list be your work to-do list. If you have a personal to-do list, have your personal to-do list be a personal to-do list. And I know a lot of you listening like, well, Brian, that sounds pretty simple, but what makes the overlapping become a big deal? Sometimes we as people integrate our lives. We intertwine life. It's just a habit, like creatures of habit type of ordeal. And why I'm bringing this to the forefront for a lot of us is because you don't want it to be so dominant that you're not getting things done in one avenue due to another avenue or another lane. Case in point, if I'm working on my podcast right now, I should not be on my iPad using Procreate. And I know that's but that doesn't talk about tasks, like working on tasks. Why I'm saying the task part of it is because there are going to be things at work that you're going to do that are part of your workflow. And you want to have that split between those things to not overwhelm yourself and to not push that burnout. It can become, and trust me, I'm sharing this with you all because it's important. It can become very challenging when doing this because you want to be sure that you're not leaving something unfinished or unturned. And a friend of mine who I'm hoping I may be able to get on the podcast next week. I'm still trying to finalize that. She talks about this frequently, and I pay this message forward to a lot of people when it comes to planning and productivity. Don't go so hard trying to do so much. Do 3 to 5 things, 3 minimum, 5 if you got that, if you have or are able to provide that type of time, but focus on the main things that you do or don't need to get done. And then literally let the rest of it kind of speak for itself. Because the worst thing that can happen is you're trying to do it all, but you don't need to do it all. You can't wear 5 pairs of socks at the same time. You're intended to wear 1 pair. Now, if you want to layer up and put on long johns or whatever, then that's a little different. But you wear a pair, and once that pair is completed to be used, you put that pair where it belongs, and then you progress through that, and you get another pair. And once that one's completed, I lost train of thought really fast just now. But yeah, just don't let tasks get too bombarding. And even in your daily things of what you're working on, like when you're cutting tasks down, balance those task windows of getting that completed and not pressing to say, okay, I got part of this done. Let me start on another task from another list that has nothing to do with what I was initially working on. Because then you get pulled into the over multitasking window, which as y'all hear me talk about time and time again, multitasking, monotasking, task switching, single task, man. Like monotasking is where it is. Have that thing that you're going to do it to its maximum. And then once you complete that, work on your next thing. And I'm even sharing this for myself and remembering like to know that I want to be sure to come in with a plan, with a purpose, with a process, and not just, all right, I'm just going to work on it and it's all going to work itself out. Because it never really ends well when doing that, at least from personal experience. So I wanted to share that while I had an opportunity. I did talk about this a little bit last week, but I didn't talk about it in its entirety of CES. So what I'm going to do is something a little unorthodox, but a little organized in the workflow. I did find an article that talks about a couple of cutting edge products that came from CES a few weeks ago. Some of these are going to be coming out soon. Some of them are likely already out. They talk about the SoundFun Mirai speaker. It's a nice looking speaker. It's for $300. The Apollo wearable, which is an accessory to keep track of providing soothing, calming vibrations. You can wear it at night. They have a sale going on right now where you can get it up to $70 off. Now, a lot of these links may change or have changed, but this is also all based on when this article was written, which was on the 18th, which was literally a couple days ago. Let's see. The Punked 5G phone with apostrophe OS. They have that phone available for looks like an Android-based phone. Looking at the operating system. I mean, it's through apostrophe OS, but it looks like it's based on Graphene OS. You can use apps with an added layer of protection to keep your data and personal information being collected and passed along to advertisers and other big tech companies. This looks like it might be an interesting buy, especially because of the fact that it has built-in VPN. I don't think people realize your cell phones, tech tip, without being an aggressive tech tip, having your phone include a VPN is a big deal, whether you realize it or not. Chipolo Perfectly Imperfect Card Spot. This is similar to an accessory that I just recently purchased called the Eufy. card hold. Like it's a card that you can place in your wallet to kind of act as a smart, like it can be integrated with Find My devices. So I'm loving it. I've had it so far. It's been very helpful. They have an e-bike coming out. It's only $6,000, and I say only lightly, but I'm saying it as like that's a pretty hefty price. But looks like it's worth. It's the quality will come with the product from what I can gather so far. Audio-Technica earbuds are available. The Anchor portable power station at 3,500. This is a 6,000 watt max output. It's a heavy duty. This is kind of like an on the go heavy duty power bank that would probably be like almost like in its visual, it looks like it's almost like a unique generator type option, but it provides a source of charging if you need like a lot of devices that need to be utilized in the event of the power going out. The Segway kick scooter is available. The EV Ring, a lot of people are very big on health tracking. More people are tying themselves to rings than actual watches, which I think can't go wrong on either way. The Segway Go-Kart Pro, J-Bud has their ANC noise canceling headphones. Looks pretty dope. The Jackery Explorer, it's a power station that weighs just over 2 pounds. It has a USB-A and 2 USB-C ports. It can charge up to 128 watts. Looks for the cost, I like it. It is able to be transported through TSA, because a lot of times when you're looking at different things, you want to be sure it can get through the traveling requirements when you're out and about. So I'm definitely a big fan or big component of that feature. The Nano Leaf skylights, they are similar to the ones that you would have on a wall, but instead these are can be placed on the ceiling. Mechanical keyboard by Sateki. The Odoki O, haven't heard of that one. Okay. I'll let you, if you read the article, you'll see what that is referring to. I'm not going to talk about that on the podcast. Motion Pillow is up. Catalyst, which I'm a big Catalyst consumer when it comes to their products. Catalyst makes pretty good accessories, and they have a dog collar that you can add the AirTag into the dog collar, which I think is good. And I'm going to say this about AirTags, and I think a lot of people don't realize this importance. Even if you're not able to beat the actual AirTag itself, like I would do mine now, but I don't want it to. It wouldn't be too loud, but I don't want to even trigger it. It's also useful just for general tracking and viewing of where things are. Like if you open Find My on any iOS or Apple device, you can literally see where all of your other items are located, if they're near you, in your vicinity, things of that nature. Gaming laptops, home brewing machine, interesting design, but all based on if you're into that level of coffee. Asus has their laptop lineup. The Ultra Power Station looks like a very convenient item, just $5,800, not a push. The Rabbit R1, they're pushing this. I've seen this come up a lot. I saw a video where someone was using it. Looks promising. Maybe do some more research on that and see what it's about. The Y-Brush electric toothbrush. Of course, I talked about this last week. The clicks for the iPhone, it is restricted to a couple of devices, not all of them. It's primarily for the Pro devices. So just keep that in mind. If you have the Pro or the Pro Max, you'll be able to use it for the iPhone 15, and they have it available for iPhone 14 Pro. Anchor, I'm going to talk about this very brief, but I'm going to talk about this to get people more aware. The QI or the Qi 2 accessories, charging accessories are making their way into the mainstream, meaning that if you're wanting to get more charge for your buck, you'll want to invest in these accessories to get a bigger or quicker charge. Now, let me go ahead and get this out of the way. As someone who owns a plethora of Anchor, power banks, or just accessories as a whole. Unless you really, 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 really have to make that transition, if what you have is working, don't add more to your plate. Just don't. And I'm saying that very, very openly and very honestly, even as I'm looking over the rest of these accessories. The Garmin Lily 2 is being released. The HP Omen coming in for $1,520. Smart Indoor Smoker looks promising at $1,000. It's not bad. The Thunderblade external storage starting at $1,750. The Unistellar Odyssey and Odyssey Pro, as well as the Evolve Movement, and that's all of the accessories we have, or items that'll be coming that were talked about or shared from CES. So, like I said, a link will be in the show notes for that if you're looking at any of those products to possibly want to purchase. So I've found that I found lately that it's going to be more convenient to attach myself to not being on my phone as much. Ironically, I brought my brick with me, but I didn't set it just now, because normally I would set it and we would get rocking and rolling. But I'm trying to use my iPad more. So I've been looking at different options probably for the last 2 years, if you will, because I got this iPad in 2022, the beginning of 2022. And I've been trying to find like this sweet spot of a good tablet holder, as well as a good keyboard / mouse combination, as well as a good case. Like, I've been looking at so many different factors for this, and I think we're getting to the point that we need to for it all to work. So I still use my Logitech keyboard folio set. I think that one is not gonna deter me from what I need to do in many instances. I just don't use it as much as I'd like to, because the case, I've had the case for 2 years. It's deteriorating in its own form. It will hold the iPad as necessary. And I do like the fact that, obviously, if you put the pencil can literally just sit right on top, and there's no delays or issues with it charging. I still use my Logitech keyboard, the portable one that I pretty much have had for, at least 5 or 6 years. Because I want to say I got it like in 2018, 2019. Probably was like one of the best investments I made. Because you can literally connect it to up to 3 devices. So it's usually toggling between my iPad, my Mac, and my phone at times, but sometimes I use it with my work computer if necessary. All of that being said, I recently got the Smart Folio keyboard. I did not get the Magic keyboard. I had the Magic keyboard when I first got my iPad Pro, used it for like a couple weeks, and was able to return it and kind of do like a trade-in for the Logitech keyboard, which I like way better. The missing piece for these type of cases, even with getting the Folio keyboard lacks a trackpad, and it also lacks like volume control or any like essential thing that you would want to access for it, which I think Logitech got right with their accessory. But I was also able to counter that with another accessory that I'm using, but going to really push to use more frequently, and that is the Magic Trackpad. And I put this on my notes, and the exact words in all caps, I like it. I was unsure if I was going to get this, but then when I realized, like, all right, I can actually use this as an on-the-go. This turns my iPad into a portable laptop. If I'm like, okay, I need like just a quick makeshift laptop. If I need to charge, I have a cable. I keep a cable, and I keep a power brick with me all the time on my iPad. I did upgrade my case for the iPad. So the initial case that I got was able to hold the iPad, hold a couple accessories, pencils, things of that sort. Now this one, if I'm in that position to need to, I can add in the Logitech keyboard that I just talked about earlier. I was putting the Magic Pad in that slot as well, but now with adding this accessory on it, which kind of gives you the ability to use the trackpad and not, I'm always big, anyone who knows me knows I'm always having that like concern of not getting carpal tunnel. So I always get things like wrist rest or anything like that. A couple years ago, I think it was either a couple years ago, about over a year ago at least, I picked up these Delta Hub. They're like, basically they move like however your wrist moves when you're typing, it moves with your wrist. So if I'm typing and I'm really getting into a good typing groove, it keeps my wrist from touching the table and avoiding carpal tunnel. But I was able to get 2 of them for the keyboard and 1 just for the mouse. And I think people would look at it and be like, why would you buy that? I don't really see the purpose. But then when they use it, they're like, okay, I understand why you got it. Because I personally avoid using, I've never been a big fan of using a mouse pad that has the little bump on it. Because I just never really, they work for what they need to work for, but they don't work when you really are in the space of needing them to work, in my opinion. Personal thing, but it's just something that I've observed and kind of took time as like being aware of. So that was a very detailed, long-winded breakdown of some of the state of tech that I was referring to. And it might be a different place I was going with that, but at least right now, my tech usage is being more resourceful. And something that I'm working a lot harder on doing more often than none is making sure, even though I don't have them on now, is to use blue light or blue blocking glasses to maintain my eyesight, because it is not the most attractive thing to be sitting in front of a screen and you're just losing your sight right on the go. So I feel, even though she may or may not have listened to my show, I feel like one of my coworkers from when I was scheduling is somewhere yelling like, put your glasses on. So I'm going to be a better listener and do the right thing. And also, since I did do it a little bit last week, I'm going to do it more consistently. Drink more water, stay hydrated. Speaking of staying hydrated, there's a group that I'm with, Spacetime Monotasking. They have a Discord. I will be sure that link for their platform is in the show notes. You want to join in every Wednesday at, I think it's at 11 Central. I'm never good with time zones, but I'm sorry, 11 Pacific, my bad. 11 Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern time. They do a 1 hour session where it's a space to just body double and have other folks who are working on things. I have used this very frequently while at work, and it has definitely increased my productivity workflow, and I'm not mad at that whatsoever. So that is where I'm at with that. This next topic is going to be a little layered. It might be a little boring to you all, but I want to talk about this because sometimes you have to take that moment to really embrace the inventory and embrace what has happened and where you are and where you're headed. I've watched a lot of shows on TV. And sometimes, I'm not going to say TV, on YouTube. And a lot of times these videos will share different stories or share different things. And a lot of times it comes down to, okay, I really needed to see that, because now it's beginning to put things into a much clearer perspective, and it's beginning to make it all make sense. And realizing where I'm at and realizing my value really increased. And I'm almost sensing that I talked about this a little bit last week, because I think I want to say, let me check something real quick. I think my cover art would tell what I was telling. No, it's recording different. I talked about a few things, but I may not have talked about it specifically. I think it's a chance that it may have been addressed, it may not have been addressed. But what I want to say, or what I want to share, is as people, we have to sometimes be put in a position to remind ourselves and really hone in on like what our true worth and our true value is. Which ties into the next part of me. Someone happened to see me on lunch, and we were talking, and when she realized that I had, made a change in my career, just how excited she was, very excited for me, and I was excited about it too. And it was really like a true victory. It was a unique victory lap, to say the least, because it showed me something that I really didn't pay attention to, but I'm really paying more attention to, which is really pay attention to your circle and pay attention to how things move when you move, because you're going to shift and everybody ain't going to shift with you. And that really hit hard. I didn't fully listen to it today, but I went back to Cleo Soul's album Gold, and definitely based on just a couple things that have gone on, really about to realign my faith and realign my mindset when it comes to spirituality, just believing and staying true to giving thanks and not denying where I am. Because a lot of times, like I said, we unknowingly do this. We're just in go mode. So we really don't stop and just smell the flowers or smell the roses or embrace where we are and where we could have been and what could have happened and how the dance could have been a lot different, because we're so caught up in the moment of like, all right, I got this done. Now what do I do next? What do I work on next? How do I get to being a better person? I have a video I'm going to play, but I'm going to share it and it'll definitely be the past the message. And I'm hoping it doesn't get too, it's a deep, detailed message, but I'm going to save that for past the message. But yeah, now it's funny how I wrote it kind of weird, but I understood what I was intended to say, which is how far I've come as to where I was compared to who I am. I am a much more disciplined person with a lot of things. And a lot of people around me don't realize how much they get impacted by it, because they're like, okay, so this is how Brian gonna do what he do, and it ain't even about I gotta face the music. It's like, look, you can either roll with what I'm working on or do what you think is in your best interest. I can't give you the space or give pushback where it's not necessary. Like, it's just about priorities and just about knowing like where or how to utilize said investment, if you will. By the way, and this is super random, but not random, this weekend was MagFest. It started on Thursday. Today, I believe, is day 2. Because they usually look at Thursday as day 0, Friday is day 1, Saturday is day 2, and then tomorrow is like day 3 / everybody getting ready to go home. And ironically, this same weekend, Awesome Games Done Quick, I believe, either starts today or tomorrow. So if you haven't heard of Awesome Games Done Quick, it is a speed run mayhem of different games that are done in the speed run. I'm always curious every year, because I personally will try to tune in to see when they do like what NBA game they're going to do as a speed run. And it's usually, I know they did Charles Barkley's Shut Up and Jam one time. I'm hoping they do an NBA Jam, but I know it's tough to do a speed run of it, and then it's always like late at night, so I usually never catch it, but it is what it is. We're now gonna hit the title of this podcast, and some things that I needed to really hone in on about planning, which kind of goes into the separate task list and overlapping. A lot of these things are gonna kind of integrate into each other, and you'll see what I mean by that in a bit. I tried the Legend Planner, I like the Legend Planner, but I think I'm not in that space to plan. And it's not a bad thing because I think the planner is a good planner. Whether you get it dated or undated, it doesn't really make a difference. It just comes down to slotting that time to work on that planner. Bullet journaling has the ability to be a planner if you know what you're doing, and it really can get you on track with observation of what you're doing and what you're not doing. And that is one of the reasons I've personally been attached to and addicted to bullet journaling for the last 4 years, or 3.5, give or take. To this day, it has been my joy to really use that form or that style of planner. And at first I didn't think much of it, but then the more that I sit with it, I'm like, this is really my way of planning. And I don't have, like I said, I don't have any ill will about it. I did get some information about it at one point, and that kind of deterred me, but it deterred some other things. And I think it was just me putting something somewhere where it did not have that space or that level of concern, but it generated concern where it wasn't deemed necessary. And I'm not going to go into details about that because anyone who knows me knows without saying I do not have the bandwidth, I don't have the effort to present this podcast with consisting of or being involved with any hoopla, drama, foolishness, buffoonery, you name it. And a lot of people don't understand. And I'm going to say this because I got no shame about what I'm about to say. Everyone does their style of podcasting and their flow of conversation. And what works for you, right? This just ain't that type of podcast. And any of my friends who have been listening for the last 8 years or 7+ years can attest to that. I really try to make it a place that is safe and a place to just enjoy a solid message to get you through your day, through life, through whatever's going on. Because at the end of the day, that's what we sometimes need. We just need that thing to make it all make sense. And even when we talking about this now, when I tell you going back to that message of when I was saying how far I've, where I was to who I am, you could not have told me 10 years ago I would be doing a podcast. You could not have told me in this time frame that I'd still have the podcast going. It's still days where I have to sit and be I'm still recording. I'm still bringing my laptop. I'm still a lot has happened, man. I think I want to say in a couple of months, it will be a year that I've had this laptop, which I am, I almost want to cry talking about this with y'all. I don't think I've really realized how good things have pushed in my process. And it wasn't even me pushing. It was just a process being presented to push things where they needed to go. And I have no ill will and no regrets about any of it. I think it's all worked out for its true intention. And I love that. I really, really, really love that. Going to law, of course, my bad, but yeah, man, back to Bujo. The bullet journal is back in my rickshaw bag, which I'm loving that bag. I need to, we about to start trouble. I need to give more attention to planning. And ironically, next week, I'm attending a planning, I'm calling it a planning conference, but it is a planning event that my friend is hosting. I'm going to talk to her and see if she's okay with me promoting it. I don't know if she's wanting to promote it to get more tickets, but I'm going to at least talk about the event because I think hopefully she'll be okay with this because I really am looking to give feedback and talk about it on the show because I know she's going to do a great job with the event as a whole because anything that she's touched or anything that she's worked with has done its work tenfold. But yeah, man, we back on the Bujo grind. I'm gonna make sure I implement time. There's gonna be a thing in the morning to just like pop open the planner and write out what I need to do. Um, the structure with planning and adding more systems are kind of going to tie into the separate task list a little bit. I'm in what you call the 3-for-1 option with different resources. So with writing notes, I've turned now back to the Rocketbook lane. I think Rocketbooks are very underrated. I'm taking a lot more notes using my Rocketbook notebook, the one that I recently got part of Black Friday. I'm looking to still see a way of how to use the planner. I'm figuring that one out still, but I'm still going to stick with my bullet journal. I'm still going to use my digital calendar. So that kind of almost gives me that trifecta with those. From the writing aspect, like I said, pen and paper, not going anywhere. Whether it's the traditional notebooks, the Rocketbook notebook will be used still. Digitally, I'm in kind of a three-headed monster because I use Apple Notes from time to time. I'm not using it as much as I should, but I will use Freeform. I think Freeform is very underrated. Google Keep is usually my quick jot go-to because you can access it just about anywhere. And of course, Notion. I'm finding Notion templates that are really to my liking, and also a lot of programs that I've participated in have come with Notion templates, or videos I've watched have included Notion templates that I'm using. But this ties into what this section of the podcast is about, and I don't mean to laugh about it, but I'm saying this because it's key, and I want somebody to really. This could be a message for someone. Don't bombard yourself with too many systems with what you're trying to do and what you're trying to accomplish, because then what will happen is you'll get overwhelmed with what you have. A habit that most people do, and I'm guilty of this, so I will call myself out first before calling any of you out, because if you get called out, it's okay too, but this is kind of like a self pushback and this is all making sense now. And that is the urge or the need to buy more notebooks. We don't fill out the notebooks we have. So what do? Go buy another Moleskine. Go buy another Field Notes. Go buy another Lecturum notebook. If you don't know what that is, you are not bullet journaling. And I'm not pointing fingers. Let me be clear, because there are different styles of Lecturum notebooks. They have the dotted notebooks, they have the line notebooks. Ironically, Walmart pulled me in right before Black Friday. Actually, in the summer of last year, I went in and bought, I think it was Excess, EXCESS. They had a bullet journal style notebook that I still have. I actually use it for my product manager course, which I'm going to take that exam again soon. And I also got pulled into getting a notebook, it's a journal type of book from them. And I'm almost finished the Kobe planner, or the Kobe journal that I have, that I was gifted 3 years ago. So it's time for me to hurry up and fill that one out, because the size of that journal, it should have been finished sooner, but I think I allowed things to happen, and I didn't take that time to really journal like I needed to. I was also in that position at one point where I wanted to digitally journal, and I know I'm giving y'all such a long-winded breakdown, but this ties more into the point of stop adding more systems. Work with the systems you have. But if those systems don't work, get rid of the system and try the new system. If the new system doesn't work, either go back to the old one, and if it still isn't right, do a new one, but don't carry 5 or 6 different systems trying to get the same thing accomplished. I really want to hone in on that with y'all today. I know I've long worded a lot, but I want to at least be sure that gets across, if nothing else. I talked about it already. Next week will be the planning event. I'm in limbo right now on it, but I'm trying to see if I'm going to do a podcast either before or after the events. I may do one before. I'll see, because it might be, my first trip to Atlanta in like a long time, because I haven't been in Atlanta since I haven't been in Atlanta in a minute. The last time I went, I think it was like 96, I want to say. It was literally when the Olympics were there. That's how long it's been. So I'm excited about that. Excited to also meet up with a couple of planning friends who we've all been talking about planning, but now we'll all be together to plan, and I'm looking forward to that too. And seeing how that goes. There's really not a lot I'm gonna say on this, but the Pomodoro vibes have been helpful. I've been kind of back and forth between, because I have 3 different timers that I'm always using. I've talked about these in a video on TikTok. In the importance of having like a good timer for when you're working on things, and just setting the timer and doing the work. Now I'm gonna say something, and I said this to my friend yesterday, and I'm saying this to anyone. If you do or do not like it, it's okay, but trust me, it will make sense. Do not rely on smart devices to be timers. Yes, they're going to give you the time and it's going to work to its advantage. However, you're not getting a physical view of how much time is remaining. And a lot of times it's not that you need the timer to show you the time remaining, because you may want to have the timer be set, but then face it away from you or face it in a different direction, so you're not like looking at that and like, oh my God, I'm running out of time and feeling rushed. A lot of people have done videos related to how challenging it can be when you're working with or against a Pomodoro timer format, whether it's 25-5, 52-17, 45-15. It can be very challenging. I will say the minimal desktop timer that I got might be my fave. The only flaw that timer has, and it's not the timer's fault, it's just the creation of it, is there's no, it doesn't have an eco-friendly button or option on it. The basis one that I have has that option, and I love that feature for it alone, because you literally can, you can set it, and like if you're like, hey, I don't want to use it, you hit that switch, it'll turn off, and you can press that button on the front as many times as you want, and it's not going to burn your batteries. And I think that's my other kink with it too, is that it uses batteries, but it has the option for working USB-C. But the only way you can do a USB-C is you'd have to have it plugged in like all the time. It doesn't just work on its own that way. And I kind of don't like that feature, but that also could be a reason or a way of saying, if you're using that option, that means that the timer is going to be in one place and it's not going to be traveling or going everywhere with you. So I understand that part of it too. So that's that on that. I talked about it already with the Folio keyboard and the Magic Trackpad. A lot of videos or a lot of resources are making you aware that most people don't do this. So I'm not doing this to like, oh, you should have known this and why you ain't doing it. It's something to keep in the back of your mind as an option. Your laptop can be, not your laptop, your iPad can be used in the form or in the similarity of a laptop. There is a program and a built-in feature called Stage Manager that most people do not use, but the more that I've like seen it set up, hearing about it, it works. Now I'm gonna give a little bit of pushback only because there are some apps that when you go into Stage Manager, the look and feel of some apps don't really play well with the Stage Manager format. Case in point, Jetpack, which used to be WordPress. When you open Jetpack, a lot of the visual aesthetics aren't there like they should be. And so when you're working on it, it has the potential to do what it needs to. Like if I'm looking at something that I wrote now, looking at it, reading over it, everything's fine. But then when I do edit, it challenges the space of how you would be able to read based on what you have there. So it's a little challenging on that level, but most of the apps show up like they need to. If you're using YouTube, if you're in Stage Manager, I will go ahead and tell you this now, not to ruin or rain on your parade. When you set Stage Manager and you open YouTube, if you go full screen, it's not going to be full screen of the entire iPad screen. It's only going to be the size of the window for Stage Manager. So you may want to turn off Stage Manager when you're using YouTube if you want to do a full screen view. Just a small tip with that. But yeah, so far in a little bit of time of me using it, I do like it. I think this will be something to use more often. And I'll leave it at that. Our final topic before we do pass the message is Notion did a thing. And I am happy they did this thing. A few weeks ago, actually, I was trying to find, I want to say like late November, early December, I was trying to find a calendar resource that would be similar to Calendar at a Glance that could be implemented into a Notion template. There were a couple people who were doing similar forms of this, but weren't doing it really the way that I wanted. And in it, with anything, it happens. It's not like, oh my God, it's the end of the world. I don't know how I'm gonna function. But Notion did a thing. And I am personally happy they did this thing. They've literally added in Notion Calendar. And when I tell you I am in love with this calendar and this style, it is probably one of my favorite calendars to use. Now, let me also add this to go ahead and get this out of the way. It is currently available for Mac OS, and it is available for iPhone. Now, I'm wanting to say it's going to be, I think it's a platform, like you would be able to access it on desktop, and you can also access it with Android as well. They have not made a available version of it yet for the iPad. So I have it on my iPad, but when I load it, it looks as if I were using it on a phone. Not really the biggest deal breaker or the biggest tell-all be-all, but I do like it because I'm literally getting the chance or the opportunity to like see my calendar. You don't have to be quote unquote in Google to do that. It does integrate with the Notion platform. It gives you an option once you install Notion Calendar, you get an option to integrate it with your Notion account or your workspace. So if you want to add in, say, a calendar on your Notion board, you can do that. And I think that's going to open some opportunities with Notion. I'm hoping they're going to still keep everything in that we don't need to send money for this product, if you know what I mean. I don't want to say any of those words because, you know, when you say stuff and then things happen and you're like, oh, I spoke it and here we are, so I can't be mad. But in this case, I'm really hoping they keep it the way it is and don't mess with it if they don't have to. Just my 2 cents on that. On the Mac version of it, at least what I've seen so far, I have it on my toolbar. And anytime when you open it, it automatically, on the dock, I don't know what I'm calling the toolbar. On the dock, if you open Notion Calendar, it automatically shows today's date. Similar to GCal, similar to the default calendar app, et cetera, et cetera. But I think this feature, I'm definitely gathering that this is going to be a very resourceful platform, as well as the fact that it's going to get more folks to get a better use out of Notion outside of what they're already using it for. More doesn't, as the age-old saying goes, more doesn't hurt, especially if it's of benefit and can be utilized to its maximum. So that's what I have for that. Pass the message. We're near the end. Thank you all. If you made it this far, I promise you are appreciated. You are a real one. This message is going to be deep. I'm going to warn you now. I've been wanting to find a way to address this, but then I've also been like, is this a time and a place to talk about this? And then I'm like, no, we need to have these conversations because they are things to think about. So I'm going to play this video and we'll talk about it a little bit more in depth.
When I say the wealthy has a language, they have a language. I just came from a networking mixer. I'm fresh out of the event, so I just had to get it out. But when I was listening to the panelists, they mentioned something that reminded me of this video, and I had to go find it to share it with y'all. Let me just stitch it in so y'all can get an idea of what I'm talking about if you haven't already saw it.
You could leave them with what it really takes to become a millionaire going into 2024. Give them a couple of last pieces of advice on what it really takes. Make God a part of your life, and that is to seek God in all that you do.
3 main things that I noticed across the panel, and that's what allows them to be a millionaire. First one, they all mention God, all of them. Every single last one of them. They shout out God with the big G, not the little one. Not the little one. It's like everyone wants to be a boss, you know what I mean? But like, you ever wonder who the boss turns to? They turn to God. They turn to God. That's who their boss is. They listen to God, and that's why they're able to be the CEO, the millionaire, or whatever it is. Number 2, the rich do not multitask. Okay? Multitasking is a broke thing. It is. Trying to juggle all these, no, you know what they speak? They speak delegation and hiring staff to do the stuff that they don't have the capacity to do. Not to do. My bad. There was this one lady in the crowd who asked a question to the panelists. So she's married, she has 2 kids, she has 2 businesses, and she was asking them if it's smart for her to start another business because she wanted that residual income so that she could focus on the other 2 businesses. They all said, why do you have 2 businesses that you're working on? The only way that they would recommend working on more than one business at a time was if one business supplies the other one. So if you're selling maybe e-commerce and then the other one is like a supplier for it, that's the only way that you can juggle 2. Otherwise, they say true entrepreneurship is going all into one business. And that's why you hear of entrepreneurs who go bankrupt and like try 7 different times before they make it, because they literally go all in on one thing. It's risky business, but they do it. And they know eventually that's what's going to make the money. So they do not spread themselves thin across multiple things. They focus on one thing and they will exhaust themselves with that one thing. They will not multitask. They will hire, they will delegate, they will pay for the service, but they will not spread themselves thin. That's the energy that they exude. Get somebody else to do with energy. Number 3, they have a board of directors for their life. Like, they literally have a set of people that they have to report to. They treat their lives as a business because they need to make sure that them, as the employee of their lives, because their life is their biggest asset, they have the people in place in order to make sure that they're on track. And then it made me think of stories in the Bible where the kings, they had board of directors. Like, for example, in the story of Esther, let me drop a little knowledge about the Bible here, right? The story of Esther, the reason she became queen is because the queen before her was disrespecting the king. Instead of the king reacting because he was upset, he went to his board of directors and asked them what should be done to the queen who disobeys the king. And they told him what to do. And these millionaires were saying the same thing. They said they have a board of directors for their lives. They treat their lives like a business. And they don't just become friends with just anybody. And I feel like that was in my business because I just be like, oh, she cute, I'm cute, we like the French, let's be friends. No. That's not how you're gonna become a millionaire. Now, I know a lot of us don't do that, but it's okay. It's still early in the year. So do those 3 things, baby. Keep God as number 1. Do not multitask. Hire the help. You may think you don't have the money for the help, then you probably gonna have to go hungry a little bit so you can get the help so that you can focus. And number 3, you need to set a board of directors. Them friends that you brunching with and hanging out with, they not the board of directors. They gonna go with every delulu idea that you got. You need people who are not necessarily related to you and people maybe that you pay, because a lot of these millionaires, they pay for their mentors. They pay big money to sit down once a month with a mentor. Okay, that's all I got. When I say,
I know that was a little wordy, and my apologies. I was kind of making sure, based on where I'm recording, that I don't get too loud with the audio, but in looking at the levels, it looks fine. So we'll kind of roll with that. But I'm gonna break it down, and we're gonna wrap the show up. Most millionaires are faith-based. They have God in their life. I'm with it. I'm on board. They thank God. They definitely don't. You do not want to ignore or deny the gratitude, the being grateful, being thankful for where you are, where things could have been, where things should have been, and where they are bound to go. I understand her second point. I always say delivery is golden. I'm not against her delivery, because everything she said, she was just speaking her voice and speaking her mind about it. I wouldn't have made the dialogue or the breakdown of it of, multitasking is giving broke vibes, because that's a little bit of my personal opinion, that's a little bit of a reach, but I digress. But a lot of my friends have heard me in so many forms of so many words say that it's never in your best interest to multitask, because in multitasking, you sometimes can get too attached to too many things at one time. And then all of a sudden you're standing there trying to juggle 10 balls with one hand. And you're like, well, why did they all fall? Well, you were trying to do all of these things and you wanted to get it all done all at the same time. And it's like, it's not healthy for the mind, if you will. The third part is where this really got good. You need people in your life to speak life into you. You also need people to speak real into you. You need a personal board of directors, and you want to create a group that is really going to put you in a position to excel and to exceed. If you don't have that group, you just put yourself in a position to do some homework. And I don't think we realize how important that piece or portion of homework becomes in what we're trying to accomplish to get through this thing called life, right? In many instances, and I always do this as a challenge. Like, and matter of fact, my friend who's doing the planning event next week, I talked. She said this one week on her live, and I about was ready to call her and tell her about herself, but she was 100% right. If you look through your phone, you should have that group that's like, what we on, what we trying to do, how are we trying to better ourselves from where we are versus where we were versus where we are, or where we are compared to where we're trying to go, rather. And that really resonates with me in thinking about who I truly converse with and who's really trying to make moves. Like, you gotta truly put the investment into you to get what it is that you need to get done, to be better today than you were yesterday, to be better in February compared to how you were February of last year. And that's very key in your development and in your growth. this video resonated with me, and I really, I'm wanting to look for the original video and seeing what he mentioned, and kind of roll with it from there. But all that being said, man, I really want people to maintain their focus on their faith, on their belief. And I'm going to say this in an unlimited amount of times. Be who you are and roll with your punches. If it is not for you, then that is okay. I am not in a position to badmouth, bash, put down anything that you are on or in the vibe of working on. That's just not what this is about. But what I am going to do is, if you're multitasking too much, I've done this with people on the phone. When I know they're doing a bunch of things, I'm like, you're doing the thing again. What you mean, the thing? You're doing like 10 things while trying to talk to me, and I'm sitting here with this one thing doing, which is talking to you, and I'm trying to not do the other things because, heaven forbid, I want to be focused on what's being shared. So I'm not giving you mid advice, let alone not showing interest in what you're saying. Because if the shoe was on the other foot, it would turn into, well, you don't care about nothing I got to say. You know what? You're absolutely right. I don't care. But you're perceiving it as I don't care because you have not taken time to really realize that I was paying attention to everything you said. And it's not even about having to regurgitate it back to someone. It's people being aware when they ain't doing it the right way. And it happens. It really and truly happens in our day-to-day, in our paths, in our process, the whole nine. So, but that board of directors, that group, man, you gotta have those folks that you can chop it up with, but y'all want to be able to make sure y'all are on business and y'all are on like preparing to like make that next move. Like there are very few folks in my connections that I really like gathered myself and really like talked to them as like, yo, you know what you gotta do, man. Like I ain't on that type of vibe, but I want to see you succeed, man. But you gotta want to see you succeed and make things happen, man. Like really make it happen. It's so pivotal, man. Like I really am more aware now of who's in the crowd or who's in the flow. I've shared this message, and then I'm gonna let y'all roll, man. 3 years ago, I want to say I think that was when I first saw that video. A video was on TikTok that broke down. You got people in your life, and they're in different spaces in your life. Some of them are VIP, some of them are front row. Some of them are in the balcony, some of them at the concession stands, and some of them at the ticket booth can't even get in. Those people and where they lie in your life has the ability to shift when your life shifts. When my life shifted, and my shift really happened when I got in it. Like I had a couple of shifts, and I talked about this earlier in the where I was versus where I'm at. After I went through all my foolishness and got in trouble and made mistakes, when I got past that hump, my circle shifted. Nothing wrong with that. It was some changes, and it was like, hey, this is who I'm rocking with, this is where we at, and this is how it's gonna go. When I got into IT, listen to me. I want y'all to hear where I'm going with this. This is not me giving a sermon. This is me giving y'all some real. When my mindset shifted, it was February of 2021. I got that position doing scheduling. I rocked with it for a couple months. I had the conversation with career services at ECPI. I said, I'm ready. I was ready. I did scheduling. I might have did scheduling for about 6 or 7 months. And I got into IT. Still got it in my, I think I'm keeping that in my car almost as a memento. But the mug that I got, it's a Contigo coffee mug. First few days, we're in training. You know, I'm going getting cups of coffee because I'm like, this is like a whole different ball game. When I got on those calls and when I got into that flow, and I was like, I got to bring my own mug. This is about to be a thing. And sure enough, like being where I was then, heading to where I am now, looking forward to where I'm going next. Man, this thing about it, we oh my gosh, you couldn't like. I'm giving that context going back to the VIP front row. People's seats moved so fast, and the crazy thing was, I didn't move anybody's seats. People put themselves where they wanted to be. Some people was in VIP, went to the ticket booth. Some people in the ticket booth got the front row. Some people on front row made it to VIP. Folks in the balcony was like, "Yo, I don't really know. I can't see it up here. Let me get to this front row. See what's to it." But some of them that's in front row, silently yet professionally, are getting backslid to balcony. They seats. They got the wrong ticket. They need to go back to the balcony, or they need to leave. They just ain't for where I'm at, and it's okay. That I think was the biggest part of all of this. And I'm gonna say, I know I said I was gonna wrap this up, but I'm gonna say this and then I'm gonna let y'all rock. There were a lot of people that I had to let go of, or a lot of people that needed to find their space in where they needed to belong, not just in my life, but just in their own lives. And it was scary to really realize that it was time for them to go. Because it's like, wait a minute, you mean to tell? So I gotta change. Come on, man. And it was like, you know what? It's okay. It is okay. It's scary, but it's okay. Because once you realize why those moves were made, and you really sit with it, and you really realize what you're doing while those moves have been happening, it's like, okay, I see what you're doing. I see the moves. I see that. I'm paying attention. We here. We eye to eye. We read the room. I'm rolling with it. I'm down. Let's make it happen. And that's, you know, if you want to excel, as the excelling happens, the changes around you are going to happen, man. So I appreciate everyone for tuning in. We will, like I said, we may be back next week. If we do not do a show, if there's no show recorded next week, then I will probably be doing one when I get back, or once I'm back on my regularly scheduled routine or whatever. So thank y'all for listening, and I will catch y'all next time. Peace. Truly hope you all enjoyed the show. Definitely was a lot to unpack, but I know you'll walk away with something important. As I share at the end of each season, do find your way to get into podcasting if it's something you would like to do. My podcasts are currently recorded via Buzzsprout. Been very good to me. If you want to learn more about using them, definitely hit me up at thepastbtpod@gmail.com. And also the microphone that you're hearing me on is the Blue Yeti X. Have been rolling with it for over 3 years. We've been doing this ride for quite some time, so I hope someone could find this mic useful. Again, find those people who are good or helpful in what you're trying to do to be better today than you were yesterday. The primary goal is to be 1% better. Hope you all have an amazing day, and we'll be back again to do this next time.